Except it's not great anymore.
It's not great. Well,
Is it running?
you know, they had Brexit. We tried to keep them up out. They still want to come. What can we do? Please give it up for Andrew Ferenbach.
Okay, hello. So, introductions aside, yes, I'm Scottish, and also I'm a scientist. This may become important. So, also, very important piece of information, which some of you may or may not know. E. coli is a small cuddly bacteria that all of you have in your intestines. It doesn't do much. There is a version that causes food poisoning, and, but this is important, Ebola, on the other hand, is that nasty thing that causes your insides to become soup and shoot out of every hole. So, now that you're paying attention, I can begin my story. Many years ago, this will become important. Many years ago, I went on a year out from 99 to 2000. Oh yes, in Australia. The year that they hosted the Olympics, the whole place was buzzing. Anyway, amongst other things, I hung out in a cocktail bar in a casino, which was lots of fun. And you would meet people there, because, you know, people. And I was young and foolish and single at the time. So yes, I would meet young ladies, well, not very young, at the cocktail bar. But as became very, very obvious to me that just maybe ladies in cocktail bars aren't the most intellectual. I mean, one of them asked, so, what do you do? And I was fresh out of my degree, I was feeling optimistic, and I used to work on E. coli. I did little work on little cute cuddly bacteria. And I said to her, oh yeah, I work on E. coli. Expected her face to glaze over. Instead, she was like, wow, really? And I was like, yeah. It's like, you are going to save so many lives. And I was like, I guess there was an outbreak of food poisoning in North Scotland, you know, a few years back. And she's like, no, seriously, I'm talking about Africa. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. And by this stage, I was too embarrassed to correct her. So by the end of the conversation, I had to promise that I was going to fly to Africa to see the benefits that my glorious work was going to do in saving all these people from the insidious menace of E. coli. Yes, I know now, but you know, at the time it seemed, anyway. And then, you know, the next night, you'd think I would have learned my lesson. I was at the cocktail bar again, and I met another girl. And this girl had an even more interesting take on science, that we somehow, the subject of heroin came up. Yeah, nice wholesome conversations like, hey, how you doing? How about that heroin, eh? So, hey, nonetheless, she had this idea about heroin. She goes, you know, heroin overdoses, you know why they kill people? And I was like, no, how do they kill people? You know, this should be good. It's like, it's because they lie down. If people actually got up and just started walking, they would survive. And I'm like, wow. I mean, it's like walking off a broken leg. I mean, you can't walk off a heroin overdose. I mean, it's like, oh, just like one trip around the track, you'll be fine. It's like, forget that Narcan nonsense. Yeah, okay, lesson learned, young, foolish, what can I say? Anyway, moving forward, fast forward, in fact, to the dreaded COVID. It was 2020, you know, the world was in lockdown, but it also brought out the stupid in people. And when I was out wearing my mask and being all distancing and stuff with my trusty dog, I met a guy who admired my dog, and we got to chatting. And everyone, of course, is chatting about COVID and stuff. So he goes, hey, you know, I've been chatting to a lot of funeral directors. And I was like, wow, really? Okay. He's like, yeah, you know what they're telling me? They're saying that business has not gone up at all. I reckon people aren't actually dying from COVID at all. And I was like, right. And he goes, you know what? It's actually Nicola Sturgeon, who was the leader of Scotland at the time. And I was like, what do you mean Nicola Sturgeon? He goes, well, actually, she spread these lies about COVID and false rumors about COVID because she knows that people hide in their houses. They're going to order lots of fish and chips to be delivered. I had to follow this rabbit hole, so I was like, and then it's like, well, the fish and chip shops, they're making huge money. They're all driving sports cars, and they're giving Nicola Sturgeon a slice of the pie. So that's how it is. You know, it's clearly it's all a conspiracy by Nicola Sturgeon. Yeah, a wonderfully crazy man. I mean, I didn't want to leave him alone because he was so entertaining. He also rented out his dog to homeless people to look more pathetic, because, you know, people will give more money if they see you have a dog. So at least the guy was an enterprising lunatic. But anyway, moving on, still on the subject of chips, and you will see where the connection is, however tenuous. Let's rewind back to the 90s, when many people didn't have access to the internet. So misinformation was rife. People would believe crazy things like if you shave your legs, your periods stop, or a man's erection never goes away unless he has intimate relations or whacks one off. If only Viagra would be out of business. Anyway, the point was, lots of people would believe anything that was put in front of them because they didn't know any better. They would never think, I'm going to Google that. They're just going to go, wow. So, there was a guy we knew, and he would talk about his conquests with girls, which were probably fictional, and he would talk about thrusting away, and he would say vinegar, 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 as in vinegar strokes. And we knew that, but then we told a naive friend of ours, we mentioned this story to her, and she misinterpreted. She said to us, wow, so vinegar, that's how you guys time your thrusts. And rather than saying, no it isn't, we, okay, guilty as charged, may have kind of run with it. So we said, yeah, and of course, if you want to speed on up, you change the word. So if you want to, get up the tempo, you go chips, 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 chips. And if you want to be slow and tender, you say salt and sauce, salt and sauce, salt and sauce. I mean, why these are all chip shop components, I don't know. Like I said, we were making this shit up on the spot. And yes, she believed that for quite some time. In fact, embarrassing along. And you guys have been wonderful. Thank you.
One more time for Andrew.